Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Brittle Bones Nicky 1 and 2 by Rare Americans. This is a donation reward reaction for Venom0027 and is our second Rare Americans reaction. Last time we did a couple videos, a couple songs by this band, and discovered through Ryan and Dave and Berlin that they utilize these kind of out there characters. In case of both of those, they were furry characters, in order to tell actually some pretty heavy stories. One of which, Berlin, dealt with secret police in, Berlin, in Germany, and, that era, when things were not too great in that regards. And the other one, Ryan and Dave, dealt with addiction and the opportunity and willingness to get better and go to rehab and stuff. Both are very heavy topics and were dealt with in a way that took them very seriously, but also delivered them in an entertaining fashion that would allow people to, find entertainment in it. And I like music and just media in general that can do that can deliver very heavy topics like that in this kind of way, because it allows audiences to, experience that kind of thing, to get to understand these kinds of topics without delivering it in a way that just makes you feel like shit. Because it's like you go to like school and shit, like you go to college or whatnot. I can speak on this because I took a class about Holocaust history. I'm not even joking here. When I was going to community college, I took a Holocaust history class because the topic did generally speak to me a little bit. I was absolutely horrified by all the events that went down, and I wanted to know more to educate myself, because I wanted to understand what these people were put through. And this is well before I had come out. So I didn't even at the time that I took this class know I was queer. And as such, it wasn't even about connecting to it, because queer people were targeted by Nazis and stuff as well. It wasn't even about that. It's just, I really felt, it really hurt to know what happened to all those people during that time. And the problem is the class was taught in such a boring, monotonous way that I couldn't get into it, and it made me wary about looking into things. And that's the same kind of goes even in current day. I have a hard time doing a lot of research on topics that heavy because I'm afraid that the way they're presented will turn me off of wanting to study about them and wanting to learn about them. That's why I like content like this that makes learning fun, honestly. And maybe part of that, even at the age of 30 like I am now, is maybe because of my autism. Maybe that is what is what hurts my ability to get into just doing typical research and stuff. But I just find it so much easier to digest this kind of information in this kind of way. And it's the same thing watching all these cartoons that I watch. Stuff like She-Ra and Steven Universe and so many others, Kipo even, that deal with really fucking heavy topics, but do so in a way that's entertaining enough to appeal to all audiences. It doesn't feel like you're doing homework. It doesn't feel like you're just pushing yourself through all of this pain and misery and heavy subject material. It feels like you're enjoying a series, but you're also pulling in all that information at the same time. It's in my opinion the best way to handle teaching this stuff. That's why stuff like Schoolhouse Rock was so effective. Like, people remember the shit out of Schoolhouse Rock. Let's be honest here. You remember I'm Just a Bill and stuff like that because it sticks with you. You see that stuff as a kid and it sticks with you because it's catchy, it's fun. It's a way for kids to learn about stuff. And mind you, obviously there's a lot that can be talked about in regards to how things were taught regarding America and stuff in the past, but still, you get the idea. And so I'm really interested to see what these two are about. Brittlebones Nicky doesn't tell me much other than, I guess, this Nicky character has brittle bones. And there's real diseases and stuff that can cause that in real life. So it's not like an out of the question thing. And they've even used this in other media. I believe that the character of Glass in Unbreakable and then later the movie Glass in that trilogy, I believe he was played by Sam Jackson. I believe that was the disease he had, which is why he was called Glass, because his bones broke so easily. I believe it's the same kind of thing. So I'm wondering if they're going to talk about that here and how they're going to handle that. Or for all I know, this could be more just less serious and less heavy. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle this. Because this, if that even is the topic, I don't know. That's just what I'm guessing based off of my own knowledge of things, I guess. But I don't know. These were also suggested, I guess, back when the others were suggested as well, the other Rare Americans videos. And I guess I somehow didn't notice them when they were donated for. I didn't notice those donations when I was putting down my list. Otherwise, I probably would have reacted to all 4 of them at the same time. But, I mean, I guess we'll just do these now. So, yeah. I'm definitely interested to see what these are about. Again, the first 2 videos I reacted to by Rare Americans definitely impressed me. So, let's get this going and see what it's about. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the 2 music videos. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Well, this is not what I thought it was going to be about at all. My guess was completely fucking wrong. So this was actually about a man who, through his life, got the worst end of the stick. He was born into an abusive family where, from what I got from that, his father even killed his mother and everything, and he was put into the foster care system, ended up getting in trouble with bullies and stuff, ended up getting into drugs and everything, eventually was arrested, put in prison, got into fights in order to save his friend, mind you, and eventually did pass away. But throughout his entire life, he got the bad end of the stick. He was handed every horrible thing that could possibly happen, and he was put through hell, and no one cared. And he never saw himself as a bad person. And mind you, most don't. But he always tried to do what was right. He just got involved in a lot of stuff because of, how things went for him in his life growing up. And the problem is, no one tried to help him, which only caused him to go further and further down. But we saw the good in him, how he was willing to sacrifice everything to save his friend, for example. The one friend he ever had, really. And we even see in the second video how he's willing to sell his own soul just to be with his mother again. His mother, who he did love, and who he wants to be able to protect and everything now in the afterlife, and to just be there at her side. And yeah, speaking of that, the second video does focus on his afterlife, what happens after he dies. We see that he is sent to hell, and there he meets his old friend from prison, who tells him about a plan to get out, to get to heaven and everything. And we find out that the devil and God are, in this kind of thing, are like two sides of the same coin. Which there's very much a lot you can take from that, especially with how a lot of, especially evangelical Christians, are in real life. But we see that Nicky is given a chance, one last chance, to prove himself, and he ends up having to serve God / the devil as the snappily dressed skeleton we saw in the first one, which I don't think we knew in the first one was also Nicky. Although I think the thumbnail kind of shows the skeleton rather than like what we see as Nicky, so kind of always telling us, I guess. But basically, these two videos come down to this normal human guy was dealt all of these horrible things in life. He was just given completely every bad thing that could possibly happen, and was never shown the love and care he needed to become better. He was never given any help, never given any assistance. Everyone was against him, except for his one friend and his mother. And it covers things like, again, abuse within the family. It covers drug addiction, police brutality, bullying in general, and just so much more. And we see how he's willing to do anything for those he cares about, and that he wants to be there for them. That's his main goal by the end. And while we don't get a definitive conclusion right now, we can see that he's, again, willing to sell his soul in order to protect his mother and everything, for her sake and his own. Because yeah, it's obviously for his own as well. He wants to help himself. He wants to dig himself out of the hole he's gotten into. And obviously, with the way the videos are portrayed, it's in a more literal sense, but you could obviously take this more in terms of a message. Just like the other videos we saw last time, the message here is that even if there's this massive hole, this massive hell that you've ended up in, whether through your fault or the fault of just everything around you, you can work to dig yourself out of it and better your life for both your sake and the sake of others that you care for. That you have the opportunity to better yourself and your situation, and that you should be willing to give everything to do that. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to come free. But it's worth it in the end. Because even if there's only a couple people in your life who truly care for you, it's worth it just for them. And it's worth it to be the best you can be. And it's like, once again, the messages of these videos for Rare Americans is impressive. They're powerful, they're intense, and they send a message to everyone watching. And do so by giving you a simple story. A simple story that, within the context of the videos, handles everything literally, but for the viewer is meant to be taken in a more metaphorical sense. So, yeah, definitely very different than what I thought. Brittlebones Nicky, the name is just a nickname he was given as a teenager by the one bully. And I can't even blame him for being as aggressive in life as he was, for being as like confrontational and all, because with the shitty hand he was dealt, it's like, I can't blame him for that. He had to defend himself from all the horrors that were constantly thrown his way. As he kind of put it in the end, it's like, when he was speaking to God / the devil, basically a representation of fate in a way. He's saying, fate dealt me this hand, I'm just doing what I have to do to make it work. And it's like, there's a lot that can be gleaned from that. And again, even if you want to specifically look at the symbolism with religion. But in general, just the idea of how the world, how fate, how life itself has dealt him this shitty hand. Like, what was he supposed to do when nothing positive would work? And he had no positive influences in his life. Like, the ones he had were in shitty situations. One of his only friend was in prison with him, where they were constantly surrounded by negativity at all times. And his mom was killed when he was a kid by his abusive father. It's like his only positive influences were not able to help him. They were literally not allowed to help him. So he was constantly surrounded by all this negativity. How else was he going to act? How else did you expect him to turn out? If you want someone to be good, they have to be taught good. They have to be given that opportunity by the people and situations around them. And so we need to also be the people who give that positivity out to the world. We need to be there for our loved ones. We need to help make the world a better place. I know it sounds cliche and kind of like silly, but we do. We do have to do that, because without us doing so, it's just going to put more people into these shitty situations. Especially currently in 2022 with all the shit going down. It's like so many of these people who have done these terrible things probably wouldn't have if they were given the proper positive attention they needed. Whether it be for getting the help when they needed it, or being treated properly, or so on and so forth. And that's not always the case. It's not always the case. Sometimes there are some people who just inexplicably do bad things. But we can't look at only the worst situations and act like everything is just going to be that way. We have to work to make sure that things don't end up that way as much as possible. So that's all what I got from these videos, and I think that's one hell of a fucking message to teach, and one hell of a fucking message to receive. So once again, yeah, very impressive, very well done, well written, well displayed through the video. We didn't have furry characters this time, but we did have some demons, skeleton, depictions of God and Satan. So it's like there's a lot of still supernatural elements to this, but a lot of it was also just humanity, shown through a stylized style. But it did what it needed to do, and that's what's important. But it definitely leaves room open for a possible third in the future, a possible Brittle Bones Nicky 3. Because the story's not finished, because he's working to get to his mother right now, to get to heaven. So we'll see how that goes down. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Brittle Bones Nicky 1 and 2? And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Venom0027 for suggesting these. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.